Alright, my PC is currently broken and they just released the patch which changed a bunch of operators. So I thought what better time to do a tier list video. Alright, so to start, Ace. He's probably one of the best hard breachers. Pretty versatile except for like hatches and stuff. I see him in pretty much every map where you need a hard breach, so I'll put him in S tier. Alibi. Also, sorry about my bird. He's going crazy right now. Alibi, I will put her in. She's a tricky one because she's like not bad, but she doesn't really bring anything either. She's decent for like window denial, but that's about it. I'll probably put her in probably D tier. Alright, next we have Amaru. Amaru is kind of a tricky one too because I mean like she has her place certain times, but she doesn't really bring anything. I'm probably gonna have to put her in E tier because she's generally a troll pick. But at the end of the day, there really isn't any bad operators in Siege, so keep that in mind. Alright, next we have Aruni. Aruni's a really good operator. She can be used pretty much as like an ADS or like a OMI. Like if you put it on a door, it's just another like layer to stop utility and everything, just something else you have to burn. I wouldn't say she's like the best operator ever, but she can be really good in certain situations. So I'm gonna put her probably in the A tier. Alright, now we have Ash. Ash is pretty good. I wouldn't say I wouldn't say she really has a place like she used to because she doesn't have as much utility now and her gun isn't as good. But she's still a very good operator. 2 breaches, breach charges. It's really good for like breaching, opening things. I'll put her in B tier. Alright, Azami. Azami, obvious S tier. I mean, you can do so much with her. She's so versatile. You can pretty much play her differently like every single round, or you can like have like a preset kind of setup that you do with her. You can make one-way angles. You can pretty much deny doorways, deny like angles, hallways, anything. Like there's pretty much no site where it's bad to play Azami. So I'm gonna put her in S tier. Bandit, I'd say Bandit isn't as good as he used to be, but I mean, you're still always going to need like wall denial and Cade is banned sometimes. So I'll put him in A tier probably. Blackbeard, he's probably going to be F tier. The only reason you'd ever really be playing Blackbeard is when you're playing against cheaters. And honestly, with the amount of cheaters that like we've been getting this season, I'm going to put Blackbeard in E tier because I'm playing him more than ever. Blitz, same as Blackbeard, except Blitz is like a pretty horrible operator except on a select few sites. I'm gonna keep him in F tier just because he's pretty much a troll pick unless, like I said, like you're pushing like construction on Oregon or something like that. Buck is probably one of, if not my favorite operator in the game. I'm gonna have to put him in A tier though because he just doesn't have as much utility as some of the other operators in S. But he's probably one of the most fun operators to play, one of the most versatile, just really good operator. Then we have Capitao. Capitao is a really underrated operator. He doesn't really get picked that much, which is surprising, especially now that we're going to be seeing less Warden play. I think his pick rate's going to be picking up soon. I'm probably going to put him in, I'd say B tier. He probably deserves A, but I just haven't really seen enough gameplay of him to justify putting him in A, because like I said, he's never really played. Then we have Castle. Castle is one of those operators where on the right sites, he's like in S tier, like he's essential. But on some sites, he's practically useless. And especially if you don't know how to play him, he could be like F tier, and then if you know how to play him, he could be S tier. Because of that though, I'm just gonna assume that like this list is for people who like know how to play him. I'm gonna put him in A tier probably. Cav. Cav isn't a bad operator, but the thing is, her utility is only really useful if you get an interrogation. Like, you have an operator like, say, mute or something, like you put your jammers down, and then, like, that's like just immediate value. Cav, you actually have to do something to get value out of her. And you can get a lot of value. The bird just like landed right next to me. You can get a lot of value out of her, but like it's risky. It's a risky play, and sometimes when you get an interrogation, your teammates can get like too aggressive and maybe throw. Like that happens a lot even in champion elo. So I'm gonna have to put her in E tier. Clash, I'm gonna put her probably in S tier. And a lot of people are gonna like disagree with this because like they're gonna say, oh, she's easy to counter, this and that. I think Clash is like one of the hardest operators to counter, especially in like high elo. Like if you have a Clash who's just like walking at you without any teammate cover or anything, and then just like immediately gets knifed and killed, like yeah, that's gonna be an F tier Clash. But like, have you ever played against a Clash like on a site where she's like behind two ADSs, she has like teammates holding a crossfire behind her, and then every time you try and push anything, she's just like zapping you? Like tell me how you're supposed to counter that. Like I know there's ways, but it's practically impossible, especially without a coordinated team. So I'm gonna put her in S tier, which is gonna be shocking for a lot of people. Doc, we'll probably put Doc in. Well, I think Doc is like one of the best healers now. I think Rook has the edge over him just because of self-revive and then just providing like a boost for all the teammates, even if he's dead, alive, whatever. But Doc is really good. The fact that like even from downed he can heal you back to full HP no matter what operator you are is like it's pretty good. Like especially if you get like downed in like some bad area and then Doc comes and then just heals you back to like full HP. Like that's always good. But I'm probably gonna have to put him in C tier. Actually, I'll put him in D tier just because I realize Alibi is here and he definitely provides more utility than Alibi. Dokkaebi is very clearly an S tier operator. I mean, like if you're roaming, if you're on site, like when Dokkaebi calls, like you pretty much have to deal with it, or she's going to know exactly where you are and her whole team. Like, she's one of those operators where like in low elo she's not that great, or I guess she actually is pretty good. I see a lot of low elo people play her, but they don't play her necessarily right. But like she's just a very good operator, really good for information, pretty much anything. There's not really any bad time to play her. Like she's just an easy S tier operator. Also one of the most annoying operators in the game for anyone who's played against a good Dokkaebi. Echo. Echo's a bit of a tricky one because he can be either pretty good or pretty bad depending on who's playing him. Like, I'd say Echo is one of the hardest operators to play just because 99% of people don't know how to play him. Like, if you're an Echo who's just like sitting under like some crouched in some corner away off site just playing cams for like plant, you're pretty much doing nothing as Echo. And that's how a lot of people in low elo play him. And then in high elo, people like just kind of drive his cams around and then get them destroyed immediately. Echo is one of those operators where you need to have your cams up post plant, but you also have to have your gun up like with your team when they're pushing. So it's really tricky to place him because he can be pretty good in certain situations with the right player playing him. But I'd say overall, he's not the best operator you could play. I'm gonna have to put him in C tier. Alright, Ella. Ella has one of the best gadgets on defense just for the fact that it's like Fenrir, where you can't shoot it unless you expose yourself to it. And then she has a really good gun to where she can just like peek you, and like once you hit her gadget, she can pretty much just melt you with her gun. A lot of people don't like her gun or say it's bad, but like sure the recoil is not that great, but you're just playing it wrong if you think it's a bad gun. Like you're not supposed to be taking like cross map gunfights with Ella. You're supposed to be peeking people who are like in close proximity, and you're supposed to be playing off of your ele mines. They also make great alarms. So yeah, I'd say she's a really good operator. I think there's better operators though, so I'm gonna put her in B tier. She's not like an essential pick. Finka recently got nades back, and pretty much any operator that has nades is like immediately meta to some degree. Like nades are always gonna be good in this game. So I don't quite know where to place her. I mean, the LMG, I tried the LMG the other day. The recoil really isn't as bad as I thought. If you spray more than like 15 or 20 bullets or something, it veers way off to the right. But you just don't have to be spraying that much. I mean, you still have like an unlimited mag. You just have to reset your spray after like 20 bullets. I'd still probably run the spear over it though. I really don't like the spear though, so I don't really enjoy playing her. But nades, the ability to revive teammates. I don't remember if she has the Gon 6 or not, but I'm gonna put her in B tier. Alright, Florus. So the thing about Florus is he pretty much killed utility meta, right? Like when everyone was playing like 3 shields, ADS, you could just like drive a Florus in and then shoot it. Or blow it up. But since then, people haven't really been playing very utility based anymore. So I'm probably gonna have to put him. It's honestly kind of a tricky one because he's still like a pretty good operator, but there's just not as much of a place for him. But I think his gadgets are still good enough, and he has 4 of them to where I can comfortably put him in A tier. I think that's a good spot for him. Alright, Frost. So a lot of people think Frost is useless after the new update, but Frost, like, if you're playing her to where the update affects you, then you're playing her wrong. Because what you're supposed to be doing as Frost is, say you have a window, right? And it's like sight window. And if they jump in that window, like they're going to be exposed to your whole team. And a lot of people think like, oh, well, don't put frost traps there because then they'll shoot it. They'll know it's there, they'll drone it, whatever. But it doesn't matter if they know that frost trap is there. If they jump in that window, they have to decide, am I going to shoot the person who's going to peek me when I jump in, or am I going to shoot this frost trap? And it just makes it way harder to jump in windows. And it just kind of eliminates somewhere that you have to watch as a defender. So I'm still going to put her in A tier. She's still a very good operator, especially on certain sites. I'd put her in S tier, but there's some sites that you don't need her on, so she's not as versatile as some of the S tier operators. Fuse. Fuse really isn't the worst operator in the world. He's good for like vertical. He can get like a lot of utility off, stuff like that. I'd say he's like a pretty decent operator, but there's just not really any reason to play him over pretty much anyone else. So I'm gonna put him in D tier. Glaz, again, he has nades. Nades make any operator good. There are some situations where he can be very good, but I personally don't really use him, and I don't see him used that often. I don't think like DMRs or guns like that are very good in a game like Siege when there's one-shot headshots. But he does have the bearing, which is very good for like situations where you're gonna need to peek stuff. So that does make him a bit more versatile. So I'm gonna put him in B tier, although he's not the most played operator. Okay, Goyo. Goyo is a good operator, but I rarely see him being useful. Like, sure, if you have 20 seconds left and you pop a Goyo on a door, then there's really nothing they can do. But honestly, I don't really see situations like that very often. They're either popped earlier by the attackers, or they're just like not used late into the round, or bad placements or whatever. Which doesn't make the operator himself any worse, but just how he's played. But I don't really see him being used that often because it's pretty easy as an attacker to clear out Goyos before you push. Now, when his gadget does work, it is really good, so I will put him in B tier, but he's definitely not the most versatile operator. Gridlock. So last tier list, I put Gridlock in A. And a lot of people were like skeptical of that because they don't really understand the value of gridlock. So as gridlock, like you have a Gone 6, you had EMPs, you have 4 tracks, and people think tracks are pretty useless because they aren't the best flank watch. Like you might as well just play Nomad, right? But the way I play gridlock is I put her, say I'm like pushing a site or something, I'll just like throw my tracks like back site, mid site, and then where we're gonna be planting or pushing or whatever. And then that makes it so they have to deal with the tracks or else they're not gonna be able to retake site. So it gives you a lot of time to just like like maneuver around the defenders when they're shooting your tracks. Like it just distracts them. And you can put so many of them down at the same time and they expand so quickly that you pretty much can't deal with all of them at once. So I'm gonna put her in S tier. Now that she has grenades, like that just adds another level of utility to her. Like Gone 6, nades, tracks. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces of utility for one operator. Like even if you think her gadget isn't that crazy, that's just a ton of utility for one operator to have. So Grim, I've been saying since Grim came out, I think he's like a pretty underrated operator. And then Grim got like a small buff, and then suddenly everyone switched up on him and said, okay, like he went from being the worst operator in the game to probably the best. Or not best, but like, you know, people were saying he's like OP, this and that. I don't think he's either. Like I used to say he's underrated, now I'd say he's probably overrated. Now that his gadget bounces though, that did make him like go into the upper tier of operators. But I'm still gonna put him in B tier because, well, I think I can put him in A tier now that he bounces because that just adds another level of things you can do with him. But he's definitely not the best operator, but he is like very good. Like if you get caught in those bees, you pretty much can't really do anything until it goes away, which is a pretty long time. And they're pretty hard to like get off site, especially if they're being spammed, and he has a lot of them, so I can put him in A tier comfortably. Alright, Hibana. Hibana is like, I really like her guns. Like she has the bearing, and then her AR. Like I really enjoy those guns. She's not as versatile as some of the other hard breaches. She's only really good for hatches and say getting like garage on club or just single walls like that. Like she's not very good at making walkable breaches. But I'll probably still put her in. I'll probably put her in A tier just because like she's a hard breach. She's always gonna be useful. She's always gonna have a place. There's a lot of maps where she's really good to play. But yeah. Yana recently lost her nades, which definitely takes some points off of her. Before I'd say she's S tier. Now don't get me wrong, Yana with flashes is still like really good. There's still a lot you can do with that. Like it's still a ton of utility for one operator. You have information, you have Gone 6, you have flashes. Like still really good, but like I said, nades are just unbeatable as utility. Like there's really nothing better than having grenades. So I'm gonna put her in A tier now. So she's lost a spot from last time where she was S tier. IQ, there's really no reason to play IQ. Like she's just like you can, like she has a good gun. She doesn't really have much secondary utility. There's not really much of a reason to play her most of the time. I'd probably put her in D tier. There's not much you can do with her. Like she is really good in certain situations with certain setups, whatever. But yeah, I don't really see a reason to play her over other operators. So I'm gonna put her in D tier. Jackal's pretty much always been a good operator. He's just like, he's been changed quite a bit over the years, but he's still like really good. I wouldn't say he's on the level of like Dokkaebi or like that. A lot of people like ban Jackal when really they should be banning Dokkaebi because she's pretty much a better Jackal in every single way. But Jackal is still a really annoying operator, but I'm gonna put him in A tier because I don't think he's on the level of some of these operators, especially Dokkaebi. Jaeger is always gonna be S tier, just the nature of his gadget. It's too useful. not to bring on like pretty much most sites in the game. His gun isn't as good as it used to be, but it's still like pretty good. It's just slow and clunky. But yeah, definitely S tier operator still. Cade, another S tier operator, the best wall denial operator in the game. You can like hide his claws, make them pretty much impossible to get. You can put 2 down, making it like impossible to EMP or anything. So yeah, definitely very good operator. Callie, another F tier operator. There's really no reason to play her, especially when like EMP impacts exist. I mean, she's pretty much an EMP impact on an operator. Like she has 4 of them or whatever. And her gun sucks. Her sidearm's good, but I mean, you can just play any other operator for a gun that's like as good as that. Having a like sniper in siege just isn't really that great, so I'm gonna have to put her in F tier. Alright, Capcan. After losing his 1.5, he's definitely not played as much, but that doesn't really get rid of the impact of his gadget. He's probably one of the most annoying defenders to play, just because, like, sure, you can drone them out, but when like there's one just like on some random door or like late into the round, something you haven't droned yet, and you just walk through them. Like, there's nothing more annoying and just like low skill than that. Like, if you're ever not playing good, you can just jump on Capcan and you'll probably at least like get a kill in that game, or at least get some damage off. Even in champ elo, especially in low elo, like Capcan's pretty much always good. I wouldn't say he's S tier though, because obviously he's very easily counterable. So I'm gonna put him in A tier. Alright, Legion. Legion, I'm gonna put in S tier this time. I don't remember what I put him in last time, but I definitely don't think he got S tier. Like just having having goo mines do impact damage, and having the super shorty is like huge for his kit. And I made a video on him recently, but the fact that you have the super shorty and with the shotgun buff, if you ADS while peeking, if you're within like 3 meters of someone, you'll pretty much one pump them, and then 2 if you're like in the 6 meter range. So he's like a very versatile operator. Like you can play him in like fragging positions. You can play him in like a kind of close sight roam. You can play him in like a deep roam and just like waste time with him. You can play him on site and just stack goo mines around because they'll do impact damage now. And then plus goo mines doing impact damage definitely helps with the shotgun, because that like lowers them a little bit, which can be huge for playing a shotgun, because I can't like tell you how many times I'll shoot someone with the shorty and they'll be left on literally like 1 HP because they'll be like 4 or 5 meters or something. So having those goo mines can definitely like help you get it down, like get it down on an operator that you're shooting. But yeah, I'd say he's very good right now. Like very underrated too. I haven't seen many people talk about him, so definitely S tier. Lion hasn't really changed that much. He's good to play. I wouldn't say he's the best operator ever though. He's pretty good in like a coordinated team, especially if you're doing like certain pushes, but it's pretty easy to like counter him or just like wait out his timing now that it's a lot slower. His gun's not that great just because it has a low fire rate. It's not the worst gun ever, like it has 50 rounds, does decent damage. But I'm gonna have to put him in C tier, along with the operators that are like good, but like not great. Maestro. Maestro's a pretty hard operator to play. He's kind of in that group with Echo. He can be pretty decent in certain scenarios, but he's pretty easy to get rid of his cams. I mean, now you can just punch them. You can just shoot them. If you have like a teammate covering you, which is most situations you should be planning in, then they can just shoot it. So I'd say he goes in C tier. He's not quite useless, like he has his place, but you just don't really see him in that many lobbies anymore, especially with his gun getting nerfs, without having the ACOG, without having the really accurate hipfire like he used to have. It's just not that great. Mav's a really good operator too. I don't know if I could put him in S tier though, because he's not the best hard breach ever. Like he's not that great, especially with impact EMPs. You're not really gonna be maving main walls anymore. He's good to stop like tricking. He's good for certain maps like Night Haven where there's not really any drone holes or anything, so it's like you can easily trick it, or any like play below on like vertical. So I'm gonna probably put him in A tier. He still definitely has his place. He's good to like, you can make like quiet holes on a back wall or something and then hold those. You can make rotates like on Clubhouse, on Dirt, or on Oregon on Attic. Like he's still good for situations like that, but he's definitely not like S tier like he might have been like when he first came out. Then we have Melusi. Melusi is still a really good operator. A lot of people don't understand the value in her since her nerf, where you can shoot them when they're activated. But the thing is, you just have to switch up your placement of them. So say before, if you're putting Melusis on like the middle of a doorway or something, and then they'd have to like walk in fully and then like hit it. Now you just put Melusis on like the side of a doorway. So if you have like somewhere people are walking in, you use it like a Fenrir or something where they walk in and then they have to turn around to shoot it. So put those on like sight and stuff, and there's pretty much nothing they can do about it unless they like have full sight control. So I'm gonna put her in A tier. She's still very good. And people think like making her a 3 armor made her significantly worse. I disagree with that. I think when you have an anchor operator, I think that's always good for them. Now, like Melusi before, she's one of those operators where you put her utility down and then she's just a gun. So she had impacts, she had 3 speed, and she just had a gadget that she places on site. And then she was pretty much just a roamer fragger operator. I think making her a anchor operator was really good for her. Mira. Mira's probably gonna be an A tier operator. If played right, she can be S, but she's just really easy to counter. She's banned most of the time, just because she's annoying to deal with. But like I said, she's pretty easy to counter. There's a lot that you can do against her. Her mirrors aren't as good as they used to be, especially now that you can like punch them and whatever. So I'm gonna put her in A tier. Monty. Now, just like Clash, I'm gonna put Monty in S tier because I think playing against a good Monty in the right situation, he's definitely not good for every map, every site, whatever. But in the right situation, Monty is pretty much an unbeatable operator. I mean, even if you go Oryx to counter him, like if he's playing with a teammate, it's not like you can do anything with that. And that's the best way you should be playing Monty. The thing about Monty, you should never be ADSing with him, unless you're in like a 1v3 or 1v5 or whatever. If you're ADSing with Monty, you're just trolling. What I like to do as Monty is I like to get to the side / behind an operator, depending on like where their team is. Like if they're roaming, I get behind them. If they're playing on site, I like to get to the side of them. And then I like to just like crouch, unextend, and then just like kind of tap my hipfire at them. And like this, it makes it so they have to deal with you because you're doing damage to them, you're shooting at them. Like they have to deal with you or else they know you can just ADS and kill them. But what you know is you're not going to ADS, you just like keep tapping. So that's like all you have to do is Monty. You just get to the side or like behind an operator and then you just start tapping at them, and there's pretty much nothing they can do about it, and then you just let your teammates get the kill for you. So Monty, definitely S tier. Alright, Mozzie. Mozzie is not the best operator anymore. I mean, he definitely used to be much better than he is now. Especially with the P10 getting nerfs and everything. He's not the worst operator though. Denying intel is always going to be good, but I don't really see a reason to play him over most operators. So I'm going to put him with the operators kind of like that in C tier. Mute, easy S tier. Mute's like one of the best defenders in the game. You have SMG-11, you have Shotgun, one of the best shotguns in the game. You have mute jammers, which are incredibly useful, and you can put them behind walls, behind doorways, whatever, and pretty much just deny intel all around. Deny stuff like Dokkaebi calls, lion scans, all that. So, easy S tier operator. No reason not to play him on pretty much any site in the game. He's just, overall, great operator. And like I was saying about Melusi, Like, a lot of people said he was useless when he got nerfed to being a 1 armor, or a 3 armor. But having him be able to play sight and like tank more damage is really good for him, I'd say, because like I said, you have an operator like Melusi before, where like you would play her and you just put your utility down and roam, and it was the same thing as mute. And I don't think like an operator with a shotgun and an SMG-11 should be able to just like run around and roam. But yeah. Knock without Silent Step is definitely much worse than she was before. I think before I gave her like an S tier or something. Now I'm gonna give her an A tier still. Just for the simple fact that she can deny information. Like before, um, like sure she could just like all walk into sight, but the main reason why she was as strong as she was because like in high elo, someone's usually gonna be on a cam or on a bulletproof or just something like watching for somebody like rushing in early or just getting into a position that you typically don't want an attacker to be in. But Noct can still get into those positions, she can still sneak by cams and then put herself in good positions. So she's still going to be A tier, especially for like a high level play. But definitely in low elo, she's pretty much useless now. Alright, Nomad. Nomad is still a pretty good operator. She's not the best operator. I think like you might as well just put a drone on flank watch. I don't really think putting air jabs or anything on flank watch is that great because it's pretty easy to shoot or impact or whatever. There's definitely some doorways and stuff where it is really good to play, but there's just a lot better operators that you can play over her. So I'm going to put her in B tier. Alright, Oryx. Oryx goes in D tier where it's the operators that are just like good guns, pretty like not really much utility going for them, not really much that they can do besides their gun. So pretty much just like light fragging operators. Um, like he's pretty good for prep phase. Like you can open up rotates. You have the bailiff. You have the T5, which is a really good gun. But then you're not really gonna be using his tackle or like jumping up hatches that often. Like I haven't really seen it be that useful in many situations. So definitely D tier. Alright, Osa. Osa is probably, I want to say S tier. She's kind of easy to counter, but that's kind of besides the point because she does have 2 shields. You put them like outside of breach post plant or just outside of breach in general, and she's pretty much unkillable unless you have like 2 impacts and like someone to peek her with you. So I definitely say she's an S tier operator. People were saying that she got a nerf when they made her 3 armor, which I just think is stupid because for an operator where you're going to be shooting at her feet, that's like really good. As long as you know how to position yourself with Osa, she's a very good operator. Alright, Pulse. Pulse can be good in certain situations, but he's kind of like Echo, kind of like Maestro. Like a lot of people will just like play him below and not really do anything, and then their whole team will be dead, and then they'll be last alive below. Like that's not how you should be playing Pulse. That's not how you should be playing any of those operators. So I'm gonna put him in C tier. He definitely can be good, but in certain situations he can be pretty much useless too. Especially in TDM meta, not really many people are going for plants. So Recruit. I don't know why Recruit is here, but I mean honestly, you can put Recruit in S tier. He has 2 secondary gadgets and pretty decent guns for the most part, although the attachments are pretty messed up. So I'm gonna have to put Recruit S tier. And you guys might think I'm trolling, but I mean, he actually is a very good operator. You just can't really play him anymore. Rook. I'll put Rook in. I'll put him in 1 tier above Doc because he is pretty much just the better Doc, at least in my opinion. Like being able to self-revive your whole team. Like the thing about having one operator that can self-revive is like it's going to be very situational, but when your whole team has the ability to self-revive, it can pretty much be a thing in like every round where it can like help you to an extent. I mean, I've literally had clutches where it's like a 1v2 or a 1v3 and they'll like down me or something or nade me, and then I'll just pick myself up and then clutch. Like it's a really good gadget to have, and the fact that it just gives the whole attacking team a health boost like immediately, always gonna be good. Sens. Last time I put Sens in F. Sens is like they're probably the worst operator in the game. But I've seen like some pro league setups with them where like you can actually make pretty decent plays. But I still think most of the plays you can make with Sens can just be made with a smoke grenade. So um, probably an E tier now. One step up. I still think Sens is one of the worst operators in the game, just for the simple fact that they can like really be detrimental to your attack if they're played wrong. Sledge. I'll put Sledge in probably. It's a tricky one because I definitely don't play him as much now that he's 3 armor, because it's just really hard to like maneuver around with his sledgehammer. Movement's like a bit trickier, so I don't know if I should put him in S or A tier. I mean, I still think he is really good. He has nades, he has a ton of utility. I'll probably have to put him in S tier just for that simple fact, but he is definitely not as good as he used to be without the SMG and without being the 2-speed or whatever. Smoke's easy S tier. I don't think there's ever going to be a world where we don't see Smoke in S tier. You have the shotgun, you have SMG 11. Just the ultimate anchor operator. Like, smoke grenades are insanely useful for like denying plant, whatever. Even in TDM meta, like, he's still good for just denying doorways, stuff like that. Like, I just can't see a world where Smoke ever gets nerfed to the point where he's like sub S tier. So another easy S tier. Solus, another S tier operator. Like, if you play Solus right, like, you'll just be playing her in prep phase, shooting drones, and just pretty much destroying all their utility. She's really good for that. You can play her like below, just like a pulse. You can play her on site to see where they're pushing from. You can see where drones are. You can see where they're droning. You can see like Nox, Lions, Fincas, just like walking around after scanning or while using their abilities. She's one of those operators where you can like play site most of the round, but then if you need to, you can just like go below and then deny a plant like a pulse. So it's pretty much just a more versatile pulse, echo, maestro type operator. So definitely S tier. And P90, so that's 50 bullets, high fire rate, SMG 11 sidearm, and impacts, and the ability to use impacts while the gadget's up. That's like if Pulse could use his C4 while his gadget was up. Like, it's just really good, all around really good. Tachanka with the buff, so he now does 60 damage instead of, I think it was like 40 or something. And he does melt operators. Like, his turret definitely melts operators. Like, it like one-shots them, or not one-shots, it like two-shots them, 3 at most. You don't need to like aim head level because he'll just melt people so fast that it doesn't even really matter. But like I've said before, the main issue with Chanka isn't his like gun, it's his gadget. The fact that whenever I'm playing against a Tachanka, I can literally just run through the fire and be perfectly fine because it does like no damage, just makes him not that great. Especially because when you throw fire as Chanka, you kind of assume that nobody's gonna push that doorway. So what I always do, I see a Chanka like fires off a doorway, I just run past it, and then I catch him like behind his shield or behind a doorway, just like holding his gadget, and he's just helpless. So I'm gonna put him in B tier. He still definitely has his place. If they're like trying to go for a plant or something and you just spam fire, like obviously that's gonna be good. But he's not the best operator, even with the buff. Thatcher, I'm probably gonna put Thatcher in A tier just because now that we have impact EMPs, there's not really a huge reason to play Thatcher that much. I mean he is like infinitely better than an impact EMP, but that doesn't justify him having like such a high ban rate. Like, even in Champ Elo, I still see him banned pretty much every game. He's still a really good operator, L85. Like, he's still good, but I'm gonna put him in A tier. Thermite's like, he's kind of a tricky one. I'd probably say, I mean, he is like classic, just good hard breach, just like Ace. Probably S tier. Like, there's still a lot you can do with him, but you just have other options now, so he's not played quite as much, but he's pretty much just as good as those operators, and he is like, I think, he's just as fast, or maybe faster than Ace. Like, it is really good for contesting bandit tricking and stuff. Although I'd say Ace is better for contesting bandit tricks because you can put two of them at once. So Thorn, Thorn's really good right now. Just as a fragger though. Her traps are still not that great. They are good for like displacing enemies. I've always said they're pretty underrated, but they're just not the best thing ever. Pretty much any gadget is better than a Thorn gadget, but it's still not that bad. Her gun's really good, one of the best defending guns, and it has a 1.5 now. I've always said that there's no point in removing Warden's 1.5 because people are just going to flock to the next 1.5 operator, and that operator is probably going to be Thorn. So I'll put her in B tier, just because she doesn't really bring much other than a good gun. She does have a shield though, that's like extra points, but I still think B is fair for her. Thunderbird, probably put Thunderbird in, I guess, E tier. Like, she's not that bad to play, but there's just not really any reason you should play her. Her heals do pretty much nothing. You have to wait. Although it's not a long time you have to wait, but you have to wait for them to like recharge, so you're just kind of running around in circles on site. She's just, there's like so many healers that are better than her. I'm just gonna put her in E tier, especially because the spear with a hollow, at least for me, is really clunky and just not fun to play. Twitch got the recoil nerf. Most people can't play her, but after playing more of her recoil, because I used to say that Twitch just wasn't worth playing because her recoil was too bad. Even if you could control it, it just wasn't worth playing because like it's just not worth the hassle when there's just better operators to play. But after getting used to her recoil, being able to control it pretty good now, I'd probably say she's a B tier. I think last time I would have given her around C tier or something. Actually, I'll put her. No, I think B is fair. Her drone's still really good. Even back when Twitch had like a really good gun, the way I'd play her is I'd spend like the first minute of the match just droning, getting as much utility as like possible, and then I just run in having like a really good gun and just like melting people. But you can't really do that with the gun anymore. You have to play a bit more like um, a bit more thoughtful with her, knowing like what gunfights you can take and what you can't take. But she's still definitely a good operator. Her drones are still really good, and the fact that she has like 4 drones now, it's always gonna be good. Valk, I'd say Valk is probably an A tier operator. I know a lot of people like give her S, but I've never really found her cams that hard to deal with. I know she's like always banned and everything, but I've never found her to be that strong, at least in the matches that I play. So I'm gonna put her in A tier. Just because, I mean, cams are always gonna be good, so she at least deserves that, but I'm not gonna go above that. Vigil, Vigil isn't really that useful to play anymore, at least in my opinion. He's not useless. There's still like good situations that you can get out of him, but there's just, his gun's not that great. The SMG-12 is pretty good, but his primary is like very bumpy, very slow fire rate. His gadget's not the best. He does have impacts which are decent, but I'm gonna have to put him in C tier. Wamai is probably gonna go in A tier. He's pretty much just a worse version of Jaeger. Like, there's not really any reason to play him when Jaeger exists. But I mean, he's still as good. Still utility denial, always gonna be good. But you can't really stack them on doors because if they just nade, it's gonna destroy everything on that door. Just stuff like that. I'm gonna put him in A tier. Warden, I'm also gonna put Warden in probably A tier too. Now, a lot of people might be thinking that I'm putting him in A tier just because of the like nerf to him recently, where he's a 3 armor. But a lot of people see that as a nerf, but I see it more as a buff because like anyone with like half a brain who isn't gonna be like, oh, there's thunder. I was wondering what that sound was. Anyone who plays Warden and has like half of a brain, like they aren't gonna care that they can't like roam and just run around with him anymore. playing Sight with Warden is like really good, so I'd say that's a buff to him. Still good gun, 1.5, SMG 12, can see through smokes. Now, him being nerfed, or at least nerfed to a lot of the player base, like his pick rate's definitely going to go down because of this. Like, a lot of people who play him for the reasons that they play him aren't going to care that he's, or are going to care that he's a 3 armor now, because now they can't roam with him, now they can't run around with him. So, that's definitely going to be like a small buff to pretty much any smoke operator or operator that relies on smokes. So, yeah. Ying, I'd say Ying is probably E tier. I don't really see any reason why you should ever be playing Ying. I mean, she flashes your teammates, so that makes her pretty much impossible to like do a team push with. Pretty much the only way I see Ying being played is just like people solo pushing and trying to make a play. I know in like if you're coordinated, you can like pull off some plays with her, but I mean it's just difficult and not really worth it in my opinion. So I'm gonna put her in E tier. Zero. Zero's probably an A tier operator. I know a lot of people have been saying he's been S recently, now that people like know how to play him. I don't really see his cams being that useful, at least in like the lobbies I play in. So I'm definitely gonna put him just in A tier. But he does have like a lot of utility for an operator. Zofia, another A tier operator, just good soft breach. She's pretty much just a better version of Ashe. I mean, she pretty much has the same utility as Ashe, but then if you gave Ashe just like 2 concussions too and a better gun, that's pretty much Zofia. So just better Ashe, A tier. Brava, I honestly don't really see Brava played ever. You might as well just play Twitch at that point. Like she's just not that great. Gun is not as good as Twitch. Sidearm shotgun, which is pretty decent, but the fact that it takes so long to like hack the gadgets, it's pretty easy to just shoot her gadgets. I'd say the best way to play her is just like getting default cams for flank watch and stuff like that. And even then, it's not that great. I mean, you could just put a drone down. So I'm gonna put her in D tier. Solus. Okay, well we have another Solus, so S tier. Fenrir. Fenrir can definitely go in S tier. I mean, he's just, like I was explaining with Ella earlier, or Melusi, like you have to expose yourself to them to destroy them, for the most part, as long as you're not like, you know, on the other side of the doorway or something. But if you have to like push a doorway, you're gonna have to expose yourself to it just to destroy it. And that makes it insanely overpowered, especially the fact that he can, his like smoke or whatever lasts, even after you shoot it, it lasts for like an extra 2 seconds, so you're pretty much just disabled for like 3-4 seconds after exposing yourself to a Fenrir. And then if you don't know it's there and you like walk past, you're pretty much just dead. So definitely S tier operator, and he has so many of them and he can be so versatile with them, like just very good operator. And then Ram, a lot of people, so when Ram was like first coming out, a lot of people said, oh, she's gonna be S tier, and now that she's out, people are like, oh, she's like F tier. Like nobody really plays her as much as we thought. Now, I was one of the people who were saying that she's going to be S tier and she's going to change things up a lot. But now that like we've actually seen her in play for a while, I can still definitely give her an A tier. And a lot of people are going to like be surprised by this because, like I said, she's not really played that much anymore. But you have to realize she was never bound to be the most like versatile operator ever. Like you have an operator like I don't know who else, just pretty much anyone who's like more versatile. But with Ram, you can still pretty much get like the whole top of like a site without even having to enter the building. Like you can just go outside like a window above and just throw them in and then just detonate them. You don't have to take control, you don't have to drone. You can just immediately open a vert on defenders. So I definitely think a lot of people are like underrating her now. Some people overrated her when she was first like being announced, but she's definitely a decent operator, just not as like universally like incredible as people thought she was gonna be when announced. But yeah, that's my tier list for heavy metal / the recent patch notes. If you disagree or anything, feel free to comment. And yeah, let's get like a discussion going in the comments about what you guys think of the new patch notes, where you think these operators belong. But yeah, all right. Hope you guys enjoyed the video.